replay. I am so excited to have a dear friend and guest, Lisa Farrand, here today. We made friends when I still lived in Santa Fe before I moved to Oregon. And today, she and I are going to be talking about taking the stigma off depression. We'll also be talking about flower essences, which is a great thing to take if you are feeling depressed. We'll also be talking about Lisa's skills as an animal communicator. And I will give you her information later here and a little ticker tape below. And so, with that, let's get started. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Um, where should we start first? Would you like to start with flower essences, or would you like to start with taking the stigma off depression?
Well, they're actually like recently that I've noticed that that's uh, like almost the same topic, right? Like if we're feeling, and I think as light workers we can get those phases. Sometimes they're longer than others, where we do feel overwhelmed, tired, depressed, um, wanting to hide under the covers, you know. And I went through a phase like that just recently where I was just feeling very unmotivated and knew in the back of my mind, like, just get up and make yourself a flower essence blend, which I finally did. My little dragon helper. And within less than a day, I could feel my energy shifting. And of course, this wasn't a surprise to me because I have been working with flower essences for almost 20 years. So then I was noticing how when we get into those darker places, even when we know what to do for ourselves, it can be very challenging. And I think that, we've all experienced that as light workers, or even just as a human being on the planet. Like, it can feel very overwhelming. And even if we know, oh, if I go out for a walk, or if I make myself a flower essence blend, or if I call a friend, I'll feel better. Sometimes it's very, very challenging just to take that first step. And so I finally did, and I made myself a blend, personalized for myself in that moment. And literally within a day, I had all this energy. I was doing projects around the house. I felt more hopeful. I felt better. And this is the power of working with the flower essences. And truly, any light worker on the planet right now will, without a doubt, benefit from using the flower essences. The flower essences that I use are from Green Hope Farm. They're a company in New Hampshire. And the woman that runs it, that founded it, that is the founder, her name's Molly Sheehan. She works in conjunction with the elemental kingdom, the Davic realm, and the angelic realm. So everything that they are doing there is in cooperation with the three kingdoms: the human realm, the angelic realm, and the Davic elemental plant realm. Nature, basically the nature realm. And that is what we're meant to do. Being in a physical human vessel on this planet at this time, we are meant to be in cooperation and harmony and communication with the other realms. And of course, we can add more realms to that besides the angelic realm and the realm, well, let's just call it Gaia's realm, right? Like the realm of nature. Because we have the dragons and the unicorns and ascended masters and the Pleiadians. I mean, we can go on and on and on. So what the flower essences really have helped me is to deepen that connection with the non-human realms, the non-human beings that are here, that love us so much, and that are here to help us to ascend into a higher frequency vibration. And that's what the flower essences do.
Oh,
In a nutshell. And how are they able to do that? Well, what was the first living thing on this planet?
plants.
Plants. plants. So they know a lot about what it's like to be on the planet. They have evolved over eons of time. So they are so willing to share with us their information, their knowledge, their love, their wisdom, their healing, their clearing, their uplifting energies, because that's what flowers do just naturally. You don't even have to take one, right? So um, it's such a blessing, and I want to share that blessing with as many people as I can, especially us light workers. We're doing a really sometimes challenging, but sometimes very rewarding and uplifting and fun job. And how can we bring more of that into it? And and then the other thing that I think we can talk about is that stigma of, I'm a light worker, I shouldn't feel depressed, what's wrong with me? And
Yeah.
then you kind of hide.
Yeah. Can we pause for a minute before switching to that next subject?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm gonna assume, because people may come on as we're recording this now, and they may watch it again later, and I can make no assumptions about the audience. So for the sake of anybody who may come along and is very new to flower essences, maybe we could tell them, so there are things out there like essential oils, and there are things out there like hydrosols, and then there's flower essences. So let's give the audience like sort of a beginner's guide to flower essences, what they are, the wide range of uses that they have, maybe a little backstory on how you were introduced to them in the first place before we go to the next thing. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's a
Okay,
great
thank you.
idea.
Thank you.
So a lot of us are familiar with the Bach flower essences. Those were created in England by a man whose last name was Bach, and I don't remember his first name. And that was probably about 100 years ago. He started making flower essences. So the way that you make a flower essence is you get it, preferably in the morning, you get a very fresh, beautiful, perfect flower, and you put it in a crystal bowl with good water, ideally spring water, and then that water will absorb, because as we know, water is a carrier of information. That water will absorb the electrical information from the flower, and then from there it can be, traditionally the Bach flower and other brands of flower essences have been preserved with brandy, so those will have a very long shelf life. When I first moved to Santa Fe, you're just out and about and people start talking about rescue remedy, which is one of the Bach flower's most popular remedies. And that's like if you have a shock, or you hurt yourself, or you bruised yourself, or your dog got in a fight, or you got in a car accident, the rescue remedy will help to kind of soothe the nervous system and get you into a more receptive place to shift and to heal out of that trauma. So that was the first time I had heard of rescue remedy. I don't even remember when that was. Probably when I had my first pet here, with my first animal, which was a cat. Probably somebody said, "Hey, give him some rescue remedy," and I was like, "What's that?" So from there, because I am a healer and I am always wanting to learn new things, then because I'm putting that out to the universe, like, here I am, I'm a healer, please show me new things, information will come to me, almost appearingly magically, but not really magically, because I'm putting that information out there. So a few years later, I was working part-time at a natural pet food store, and there was a woman there that introduced me to the Green Hope Farm essences. And she was so enthusiastic about them. And back in the day, they had a book that you would get. Now you can just go on their website. But she brought the book into work one day, and she was just so ecstatic, because she has Irish background, and Green Hope Farm essences have flower essences from all over the world, including Ireland, because Molly Sheehan, who started it, is part Irish, and her husband is also. So they have flower essences from all over the world, including Ireland. So that's how I found out about Green Hope. The way that they work is they're basically showing you a map of a different path or a different way of being that you can choose to follow that if you want to. There are never, even though they're from the plant kingdom, and as we all know, there's certain herbs that we have to be careful with. There's even plants in the garden that could be toxic. The flowers will never ever be harmful. The only thing they would do if you didn't need it is they would be neutral, because it's just the essence. So what is an essence? Like the soul of the flower is captured in that bowl, that crystal bowl with the water, and you're doing it with intention. You're doing it in the morning in the sunshine with the fresh flowers. So when we take them, we can either take them orally, we can put them in our glass of water so that we're sipping it throughout the day. We can put some in a spray bottle and spray our aura. They're good for clearing, for instance. You could spray your aura, you could spray a room or a whole house. You can, with animals, you can either put it in their food and water, you can rub it down their spine. This is an amazing way to get the flower essence energy and soul into the animal by rubbing it down their spine and onto their ears. You know, you don't have to force your animal to take it. That wouldn't be productive. So over the years, after Bach first started making the flower essences, there have been many other companies throughout the world that are making flower essences because they are so powerful and yet completely non-harmful. They can't do any harm.
And very underutilized. I mean, I think once you know and you start using them, you're like, gosh, why didn't I know about this, my whole life? And it really is, like you say, it's like, when the flower essences are being made, the essence of that flower imprints the water, and then you take that essence and it imprints you with the information of those flowers. And you can mix more than one together, so they don't even just have to be for depression. They can be for a myriad of things, for attention, for focus, for wanting to open up your heart, for allergies, for this and that. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, doesn't it? And Lisa, just for anyone who might be watching this now or in the future, and hello, Jana, I see you're out there. I saw your little message in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Lisa makes personal blends for people, both for people and for animals. And that's why I have her information here. If you ever want to email her to get a hold of her as an animal communicator, or for a personalized flower essence blend, or if you want to speak with her as an intuitive healer, you can reach her at her email address there. And she has put together blends for me in the past as well as my cat, and they've been very helpful. And actually, I just called her up recently and asked her to please put together a blend both for my cat and I, that will be mailed to us soon. So we're looking forward to it, Lisa. Thank you so much. And so, okay.
Well, so can I answer these questions that are on here? I see there's some questions. Do you see those? Julie says, can you please repeat what you said at the beginning about how it's made? Did you say you put morning flower into the water?
Oh, yeah, please answer.
Yeah. So I don't personally make the flower essences. I get them from Green Hope Farm, where they do that process. So they'll make a big batch and then they'll have it, and then they make smaller bottles from that. But the way they are made is you get the freshest flowers that you can get. You put them into that crystal bowl of water, and then, like Julie was saying, the essence of the flower gets imprinted into the water. All of the messages, all of the information and wisdom, all of the evolutionary wisdom that the flower has. And I did not say that there are no poisonous flowers. There are many, many poisonous flowers or toxic plants. But if you make a flower essence from a flower that's simply, putting its message into the water, it's not going to be harmful. So, for instance, I have a friend that's deathly allergic to mango, and she can't eat mangoes. But there is a flower essence for mango, and I'm quite certain that she could take that essence from the mango flower, and she would not have an effect, because the flower essences will never ever harm you, ever.
So how about belladonna?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's
Which normally, like, it is not something that you would want to eat is a belladonna flower, but you could take the essence and you'd be okay.
Yeah, and there's plenty. I mean, there's even a plant here in Santa Fe that is called myrtle spurge. It has a beautiful yellow flower, but if you want to weed it out of your garden, you have to use gloves. You can't touch your skin. But if you made an essence out of that flower, it still has powerful messages. All the flowers do.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so nice about Green Hope Farm is that they have flower essences from all over the world. They have a Taiwan collection, they have a South Africa collection, Ireland, St. John's, Bermuda, Colorado wildflower collection. Molly's daughter walked the Camino twice, and she made 2 different collections from the Camino in Spain from that walk. And one of them is called the Healer's Toolbox, which is a really nice one for anybody that's in the healing arts. And she actually, I forget the daughter's name, but she actually wrote a book about her journey on the Camino and how she made all of those essences. And it's a beautiful story. So
Can
it's,
you Sorry, meaning to. Oh, you were telling me when we were on the phone about the one they made for Gaia. Can you tell everybody about it?
yeah, this is a brand new one. And for anybody that goes on the website, my experience with the website is it's completely magical. So I there's they probably have thousands of flower essences. So how do you go there and know what you need, and how are you going to find what you want? So you just kind of scroll around and it'll take you to where you want to go. And so I was scrolling, and I didn't even know they'd made this new one called Gaia Knows Best. And every year they'll make a special garden for that summer that's, again, under the direction of the angels and the elementals, and in this one specifically from Gaia herself, directing Molly and all of the people that work there how to make this garden in that summer for the blend that would be called Gaia Knows Best. And they got exceedingly specific directions from
Oh,
Gaia. Okay, like plant these things here. Don't plant the. Sometimes they'll get instructions on how to plant them in geometric patterns. Like they had one that was in the yin yang pattern one year. That one was called Balance in a Blue Moon. And so Gaia gave these very specific instructions. Once the garden was planted, no one was allowed to enter the garden until it was time to take the flowers and put them in the water. So then part of the instructions were, and I'm just getting chills as I'm saying this, for them to put a bottle in every single order for the next few months so that that essence could be shipped all over the country and all over the world. And then people could take that essence and give it as a gift to places in the landscape, or even in their own backyard, or their favorite place in the forest, or a favorite place on the beach, to offer that back to Gaia as a gift, acknowledging that she does know best. She is the planet. She is our Mother Earth. She does know the best.
and so it's not only for people. I mean, you can offer it to the earth. Like you can put
Yeah.
it on the ground, like in maybe one of your favorite places in nature, or maybe a place in nature where maybe the energy is a little compromised. You go there and you feel kind of weird when you go there, maybe, or that maybe there's been a car accident here, or maybe of a traumatic. Like you could do it all over the United States wherever there's been the mistreatment of Native Americans, for
Yeah.
example, or, I mean, you could just intuitively use it and get creative, but it's not just for your own body. You can use it for Gaia herself, which I think is very, very beautiful.
Yeah. So over the years, they've developed not just for humans, but they have a a section that's just for animals, but of course, animals can take the human ones and humans can take the animal ones. I mean, of course, it can go back and forth, but they also have one that's specifically for plants called Green and Tonic. So that's a great one for your house plants, or you want to just give a little blessing to your garden. Like you could put it in a big spray bottle and just go out in your garden and spray it everywhere as a gift to your own garden. There's one that she did make specifically like what you're talking about, Julie, healing the land, and that one's called Sanctuary. And that is a great one for land clearing, and there is also one in terms of what white people have done to the country called Cherokee Trail of Tears, and so that is one that is helpful for clearing some of those traumas and scars. So,
They
yeah,
leave no flower unturned.
yeah. So and then I also just wanted to respond real quick to David Seawright's. He wrote Rosewater. Rosewater is awesome. It's great for your skin. It's great for clearing your aura. It is not a flower essence. The one that you get in the store is made, it's called a hydrosol. So when they make essential oils, which of course are different than flower essences, because again, essential oils can be a little bit too much. They can potentially be harmful depending on what it is. You have to be careful. The rose water is made from the water that's left over when they distill the rose petals to make the essential oil. So
Yeah,
those are
because it
called,
comes out in two parts.
yeah,
The oil part, which is the essential oil, and then the water part, which is the hydrosol. Thank you.
right. And
There.
the hydrosols are incredibly healing as well. They're much gentler, of course, than an actual flower
Essential oil.
essential oil. And I like to use the hydrosol from helichrysum, which is an incredibly healing plant. And I just spray it right in my eyes every day, just for
In
um,
your eyes? What do
yeah.
you what do you use it for?
Well, just for eye health in general,
Oh, that's good to know because I'm having some eye stuff. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
and also like if you're getting allergies and you're having the itchy eye allergy thing, and of course the thing that Julie told me about was the chrysanthemum tea. That's great for itchy eyes, but yeah, the hydrosols and rose hydrosol. Just to go back to that real quickly, because we were talking about depression, right, and feeling a little bit heavy sometimes. Rose water is a wonderful, wonderful way to clear the aura almost instantly. And there are flower essences that are specifically for clearing. And so you could get your bottle of rose hydrosol, and then you could get a flower essence that's specifically for clearing, like Duchess de Brabant rose is a nice one for that. And you could add it in there and they'll work together. And I do that a lot because one of the things I do that I didn't talk with Julie about yet, but I do house clearings. So that's a great way. That's part of the process of clearing a house is to use a spray at the end. And I like to combine essential oils with the flower essences. And it's just a beautiful way to either clear a space or to clear your car or to clear your own aura, like you just got out of Walmart or something.
So, just to, just, just to clarify, the helichrysum that you put in your eyes every that one's a hydrosol, not an essence, right?
Right,
Okay.
right.
And yeah, now let's jump into taking the stigma off depression. I just want to say a little bit first is you and I were talking on the phone about this the other day, and there does happen to be a lot of um stigma on depression. Sometimes other people do it to each other, sometimes we do it to ourselves. We think like, oh well, you know I'm this and I'm that, or I have all these other labels. And so, because of these other labels I have, it's wrong for me to be depressed. And we judge ourselves, or people judge us, or, we think that there's something wrong with us. And actually, that's not the case. And I'll let Lisa speak more to this in a second. But, you know, it's bad enough to be depressed without somebody else or yourself putting a stigma on you. And often depression is just our body, mind, and spirit showing us something that needs attention, or giving us clues as to another way to lift our energy or give ourselves some more love. Or like it's a little red flag, it's saying, hello, over here, help clear this or bring some love in here or there. And but the stigma thing around depression is really heavy, and it has been for quite some time. I mean, if we go back, in our own history here, just even in this country, it's like, unless you were just like this perfect, I don't know, cut out paper doll or something, if you had one thing off, you could end up like in a mental asylum,
Mm.
like just for being deaf, you know? And probably for being depressed too.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, hey, people get depression, they get anxiety, we get all these things. We're an energetic being, with an electromagnetic field. And if we get depressed, um we don't need to be labeling ourselves or making ourselves feel bad about it. But and I have, the reason I'm so passionate about it and wanted to say a little bit before I turn it over to Lisa is because both of my parents experienced depression. Both of my parents were labeled as being bipolar. And I've had to deal with depression um, through much of my adult life. I've dealt with depression, and it can be for a day, 3 weeks, it could be for a month, it can, there's no like, oh, depression's here and it tells you how long it's going to be there. You don't know how long it's going to be there or how long it's going to take to go away. But it's a pattern that I've had to clear in my own bloodline. And I know that I too have felt like, oh, not anymore, but in the past, like, oh, there must be something wrong with me because I'm getting depressed. So, um, yeah, it's a subject near and dear to my heart that I have had to, or not had to, but that I've experienced a lot of in my life. So, thank you, Lisa, for talking about it and helping us to understand how we can take the stigma off of it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, sometimes when we feel depressed, it's not just us. So we're if you're in the human suit, you're empathic. Um, and different people will have different levels of empathy or feeling energies that are not our own. So when I'm depressed, one question that I like to ask myself, if I'm not so deep in it that I can't think clearly, because that does happen, but a great question to ask ourselves is, what percentage of this is mine? And I guarantee you that more often than not, it's less than 10%. So whether it's anxiety or depression or frustration or fear, a lot of times most of it isn't ours, right? So sometimes just having that clarity of, oh wow, I'm feeling the world's depression because I'm a human being and I'm empathic. Then right away that'll just start to take some of the edge off of it. So that's something that I've learned over the years that's really helpful. Because one afternoon I was sitting on my couch, happy as a little clam, and suddenly I felt this intense anger. And it was almost as if a stranger had walked into my house and sat on my couch next to me. And it was such a moment of clarity because I was able to almost just speak to that anger like, oh, you're here. I know you're not mine. You just walked in the door. Who are you? And what do you have to tell me? And if you don't really belong here, then you can leave. And it just left because it wasn't mine. So this is a really important tool, I think, because probably a lot of people that are listening to us or that follow Julie, we aren't empathic. We do have a caring heart where we want to do good things in the world, and yet we're always being bombarded with external things because we are all connected. So that's one thing that's helpful. But yeah, I mean, I just realized this last time, like when I get depressed, I don't tell anybody. Like somebody will call me on the phone, how are you? Oh, fine. How are you? Because I don't want to be like, oh my God, I'm so depressed. I can't get out of bed. Like, but what if I said that to somebody? Like, wouldn't that open up something, like, not just for me, but for the other person to go, yeah, I have that sometimes too. Like, do you want to go for a walk? Or I don't know. I've never done it, so I don't know what will happen, but I'm asking also the flower essences to help me clear that stigma of, it's not okay to feel bad. Like, it's not even okay to get sick. Like, if you get sick, you get that stigma too, like whatever you got. Like, there's like some weird stigma on getting sick or not being healthy. So the flower essences can help us to release those patterns, like what Julie was talking about. They actually have three flower essences that they put together, and they call it the Family River Trio. And it's a beautiful combo because it helps you to release those family patterns that are not appropriate for you anymore, but also to retain the strengths and the gifts and the talents that we have gotten from our lineage, right? Because we have that. We have those strengths and talents and that whatever inside of us. Like, I have that, like, okay, there's something to do. Somebody needs help. I'll go do it, and that's part of my family lineage. Or gardening. Like, so many of my ancestors and grandparents and parents were really into gardening. So that's like the gift that we want to keep. So those three flower essences help us to sort that out, so we're not just saying, I don't want any of that. um,
So did I get it right? Family River Trio is for um like epigenetic patterns in your family that you're working with?
well, it could be for on any level. It could be like ancestors, or it could be ancestral lineage, which are two slightly different things the way I look at it.
Yeah, so for ancestral patterns.
Yeah, but also helping us to identify, well, what's good about my family lineage? What do I want to celebrate? Or what aspect of myself did I actually inherit? You know, well, I have kind of a green thumb. I think I inherited that from my grandma. Maybe not. Maybe just being around her, like, maybe it's just being in that field. But whatever it is, um, it helps us with that clarity. And a lot of times, I have to say that the flower essences can be very, very subtle. And I've had the experience where maybe I've taken one for a year or two, and then one day this big light bulb goes off and go, oh, that was the henbit dead nettle that was helping me do this thing for the past 2 years. And it'll just be like an aha moment. Some of them I may not even have that aha moment. Some of them I've had almost instantaneous, uh, noticeable, trackable help. Like, there's a couple that I like to use, pumpkin and zucchini. And those are both very fast, vigorous growers. And so they help us with overcoming procrastination, having more motivation, having a little more energy. And I've noticed with those two almost instantaneously, whoa, I feel like I had a lot of coffee and now I can go do all my errands. So they can either be subtle or they can be hard to track.
I had a question. Oh, what's the name of what's the name of the Gaia one again?
Gaia knows best. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's a brand new one that they just made. So yeah, and so with the animals, they don't have that mental filter that a person might have, where a person could go, well, how could putting a few flower petals in a bowl of water do anything? The animals and even children don't have that filter, so they can work with them sometimes a little bit more easily than a human. But going back to the depression and how sometimes we're feeling other people's stuff, and it could be other things, anger or whatever. There are also flower essences that really help us to strengthen our electromagnetic field. One of them is called Golden Armor, and I do put that one in any blend that I make because that helps us strengthen our electromagnetic field, which will help with um, psychic energies, but also EMFs, right? Like the stronger that our electromagnetic field is, the more easily we can deal with all of that electronic bombardment or whatever you want to call it. So there are flowers that are specifically helpful for that in addition to Golden Armor. So Green Hope Farm has some blends that they've made for specific things like Golden Armor or Sanctuary, for instance. But then there are also individual flowers that we can use as well. So like lamb's ear is a great one for psychic protection because the lamb's ear plant is a very soft, fuzzy leaf, and yet the flower stalk is very strong. So it's got that blend. Julie, you went away. I don't see you anymore. Julie, are you still there? I don't see her. She clicked off. I'm not sure what to do. um, yeah, I'm not tech savvy here, but I don't see Julie. She was kicked out. Oh, there you are. I'm like,
I'm back. I just had an emergency and I didn't want to interrupt you, so I just thought you would keep talking, which you did. But then once you noticed I was gone, you got confused. So you're good. You're fine.
I'm not tech savvy. So anyway, yeah, I was talking about the lamb's ear is a good one for psychic protection, for instance, because the leaf it's a very soft, silvery, very fuzzy, like you can pet it. It's super soft, and yet the flower stalk is very strong.
I heard you. They heard you
So
too. Yeah.
anyway, so there's a lot of helpers in the floral world that can support us, help us clear, help us heal. You know, a lot of us are talking about we are ascending. What does that really mean? The flowers are here to help us to do that because they already know how to do it. And they are the whole plant kingdom is a huge part of the evolution of the planet. And of course, we humans are on the planet, so we're ascending as well. So there are multiple helpers of the flowers that can help us like open our crown chakra more. There's one called top chakra teasel. That's a good one for that. Now, if you go to the website and you're on the home page, you're going to see a button that says resources. If you click on that, they'll take you to another page that says they have a PDF called a list of flower essences for common concerns, which is one of the most helpful documents around, in my opinion. And they have all sorts of human issues listed alphabetically with oftentimes multiple suggestions of a flower essence you can use. So, and you can always email them or you can call me, hey, I need help with this, whatever. So one of my favorites is called Carry Less. And that, like, sometimes just hearing the name helps, like, carry less. Yeah. What can I let go of? You know, it could help somebody with decluttering. It could help somebody with family patterns. It could help somebody with an addiction. It could help somebody with, putting too much burden on ourselves, like we should do more. It could help with a myriad of things. So there are some that are very multifaceted.
It's amazing. So I guess a person could go to Green Hope Farms website and order a bunch of their flower essences on their own. But the benefit of ordering from you, I would say, is that you have 20 years of experience and you kind of know all their pharmacopoeia already. And well, you're also very intuitive, but then they don't have to get online and order, 20 plus
Right.
flower essences to get the right blend that they want because you already have
I
them.
do. And, so like this last blend that I made for myself, I think I put over 20 essences in there. So yeah, when I make it for people, it's very cost effective because if you buy a little bottle and it's a single blend, it's about $8. And if you buy like a blend, like that has a bunch in there, it's about $9 something in there. So if you think about like I put 20 in there, that would be like
To make that for yourself, you'd have
two
to
hundred
spend
dollars.
$200.
So,
Yeah.
but sometimes people like if they all of a sudden they feel a resonance towards something like say they're like, oh, golden armor, that's so good. Sure, go and buy a bottle for yourself and you can have that. Now, the other thing is when you buy your own bottle, you just dilute it into a bigger bottle. They come in a half-ounce bottle. Well, you can order a 2-ounce, but usually order half-ounce. And then I get a 1 or 2 ounce bottle, put everything in there, and then add some spring water to top it off and go from there. So, but yeah, I mean, if anybody's interested, they can call me,
And you'll mail it
Mhm.
like wherever they live.
Or they can come to Santa Fe and get it. So yeah, but I guess I was just pointing out that they have created this incredible PDF. It's over 100 pages long of list of common concerns. And so, for instance, if you go in there and it's all alphabetical and you look at anxiety, for instance, they've broken anxiety down into multiple types of anxiety, or spiritual growth, or depression, or motivation, or clearing family patterns. They're going to have several different options and categories of that condition, which is, I mean, talk about being of service to humanity.
Yeah.
Hours
Yeah.
and hours and hours. And then they also have, if you just search a flower, they'll have a picture, and all of the flower essences that are just a single flower will have an I am statement with it. And sometimes
Oh,
just reading those statements, I will get a healing. Yeah, that's pretty magical. That's
yeah.
so that's the beauty of working with the natural kingdoms.
Mm-hmm. Do they have one that you think would help dispel that stigma of, oh, I'm depressed, there must be something wrong with me?
I'm sure they do. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I'm sure that,
If you went through the PDF, you could find it.
yeah, and that's sometimes where like I intuitively,
Judgment. They must have one to do with
yes,
judgment.
self-judgments, everything. It's just an amazing resource. And sometimes that's how I find out about something that I didn't know I needed. Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if I'm just scrolling through their other PDFs, you know how you scroll and then it'll stop and then oh, it stopped there. Let me read. I need that one.
Yeah. So, as an intuitive healer, people come to your house for appointments, and of course, you have all sorts of tools in your toolbox that you use, and flower essences is one of them.
Yeah,
But you can also do consultations and stuff over the phone, right? They don't have to come to your
right.
house to see you as an intuitive healer.
Yeah, definitely. I do work over the phone.
And yeah, just like you and I did regarding the essences for Che and I. Um, so tell us about your history as an animal communicator, like how you came to be one, what it's like working with animals, one of your favorite animal communicator stories.
Well, I am a Reiki master. That's one of the tools in my toolbox. Um, it's been I think almost 25 years since I learned Reiki. So I started doing Reiki with animals and found that the animals really, really love it. And, at the same time, I was still, I'm always in the process of learning different healing modalities. So that was something that kind of went hand in hand with it. And I've always been an animal lover. My first word was Susie. That was our family dog. Not mom or dad, but Susie. I
That says it all right
know.
there.
And so I decided to go over to the animal shelter and do some volunteer work there, doing Reiki on the animals. And that was kind of short lived because they have a lot of rules and regulations and parameters of doing it there. But that was where I realized that I could communicate with the animals. So I was doing Reiki on this elderly cat. And it was very interesting because normally animals will just be like, oh, God, that feels good. Let me, and they'll just start sucking it in and taking and absorbing it. Well, this cat, ever since that or after that, before or after, I've never had this experience. He was so shut down. He was like, no, he just did not want the Reiki. So I just sat there with him for a very long time, probably 20, 30 minutes. And he finally like relaxed and started letting that Reiki energy help him. And he started to absorb it, and his energy started to shift, and he was like, wow, this is great. Well, they had, because he was kind of shut down, he was an elderly cat, they had first given him the temporary name of Grumpy, which is never a good idea to name an animal something that you don't want. Like, you don't want to name your cat Devil or something. Or Satan was this one person named their cat Satan. And when they changed the name, the cat changed. So anyway, so the first message I get in my head, and it was just like almost like a voice in my head. So I get my information either like through words or pictures, sometimes just in knowing. So I get my intuitive information on all the levels. So they had named him Grumpy. Then this one lady said, no, that's mean. Let's change it to Gramps instead of Grumpy. The first thing I hear, he goes, by the way, my name is not Gramps. My name is Walter. I was like, okay. So when I was done, I went and told this lady, Colleen, I said, he told me his name's Walter. She was so cool. She immediately went to his little thing and she crossed out Gramps and she put Walter. So I went back a couple times and I was doing Reiki on him because all the other cats were cuter, fluffier, so they were getting more attention. So then Colleen calls me and she says, I'm really worried about Walter because nobody's wanting to adopt him. He's been there for a while. So I said, let me check in with Walter. And I said, Walter, what's going on? He said, don't worry. My person is coming. It's very specific. My person is coming. So I was like, okay, fine. And so I've been doing Reiki. So the thing with Reiki is it's not just going to help that animal. It will help the whole situation, right? So not just for him to feel better, but how can we open some doors here, get him adopted, whatever. So it was the craziest thing because this lady comes into the shelter with her sister one day. Her sister wanted to go to the shelter. She did not. Her sister drags her in there and she's looking at the cats and she says to the shelter worker, that's my cat, Wally, as in Walter, was her cat. And she, for whatever reason, hadn't thought to look at the shelter when he went missing. Yeah.
And no wonder he's grumpy. He like got separated from his family.
Yeah.
But
and so that
yeah, go.
That was the moment that I was like, because sometimes when you get those messages in your head, even for me, and I've been doing this for 25 years, I still sometimes doubt myself, like, wow, what a weird thought. Like, am I making that up? And then the universe is so kind and benevolent that it will give me the feedback that, yes, that was correct. Because he didn't say my new person's coming. He said my person is coming.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's very specific. You said you knew it was very
specific.
So after that experience with him where you were doing Reiki on him and he was all shut down, did you switch to like asking the animal for permission first?
No, I had already done that before. So that's,
You asked him for permission, but he shut down?
He was just in a shutdown state. So when I work with the animals, it's just like with humans. We have our physical vessel, we have our mental body, our emotional body, our soul, our higher self. We have many, many, many levels of our beingness.
Yeah.
And the animals are the same. Well, not quite the same because they're not so wrapped up in their emotional body as we are. And that's part of why we like to spend time with them. They're not so mentally and emotionally engaged as a human. They're more on that either the spiritual, psychic level or the physical level.
But you said he was shut down, so did that mean that he didn't want the Reiki? Or are you
No,
just saying it wasn't absorbing, like he was like a dry sponge kind
yeah,
of?
maybe that's a good way to put it. He was like a dry sponge, and it just took him a little time. And yeah, I think he was a little bit upset that his person didn't come look for him, like, And
Yeah.
so
How long do you remember how long he was there?
maybe a couple months. I don't really remember. So um, yeah, so I always ask for permission. Usually, what I do is actually even before a session, whether it's with a person or an animal, or if I'm going to do a house clearing, I will invite my team of helpers and guides and angels to also invite the client's team or the animals team, or even if I'm going to go out in nature, maybe do a ceremony, I will do the same thing. I'll be like, okay, 2 o'clock on Wednesday, I'm going to go to this place and do a little ceremony, or 3 o'clock on Friday, I have a client. So I'll set it up ahead of time, and that's a really nice way to do it, because then it's like an appointment in the ethers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
then I just started doing um, more animal communication. And when a lot of times when a person gets attuned to Reiki, it will open up your psychic channels and your energetic channels, if that's what the soul is wanting.
Mm-hmm.
So more connection to the divine. Sometimes it's easier for people to meditate. Reiki can be for a lot of things. It's not just about lying on a Reiki table and receiving a Reiki treatment. It's very versatile. So, you know, I've had sessions with dogs where I was doing Reiki where they were basically like, just come live with me and do this all day long. I love it so much, because they're just, and then other animals, for whatever reason, they only need that certain amount. And then they'll just get up and leave, and they'll be like, okay, I had enough, you know, I'm going to go absorb it more. I'm going to go integrate it. So the animals, what I, one of my favorite things to notice about doing animal communication is that every session I do, I learn something that I didn't know from the animals, from the natural kingdom.
Wow.
Yeah. So they are tuned in a different way. And they are always willing to share that with me and to show me the different ways that they can be and the different ways that we can be. So they're definitely teachers.
Che is taking a nap right now. Does he have any messages for you or for me or for the people on the live stream?
He loves that you're doing this. He loves being part of that web that you are creating, where you are talking to people or writing your blog, doing these new things in your life. Yeah, I'm just getting a little chill, and that's always my little physical confirmation. He's so proud of you. This is so cute. He's so proud of you.
Oh,
It's like,
it's funny, sometimes he's usually always in this room when I do a live stream or I work on my blog. Well, this is his favorite room in the house anyway, but he's usually somewhere near. But sometimes I feel like post more pics of him, please. Oh, okay. I can't right here, but um I could do that on Facebook once I Okay, we'll come back to this, Lisa. Sorry about this. Jana, thank you for asking. I love that. So, Jana, starting yesterday, around 1 o'clock, my client so I'm a live-in caretaker, and my client left with his family for a week. And so when they left, I went into silence, and I'm going to keep silence for the next week, with the exception of this live stream. So that means my phone is off, no Facebook, no screen time, none of that. So when my silence ends, um, on Sunday, next Sunday, a week from today, then I can post more pictures of Jeff. So but it's interesting, whenever I do a live, he'll come make sure he's like right here somewhere. But then other times when I'm writing blogs, I feel like it takes so long. He's like, "Oh, can we do something else?" So it's good to know that he likes it. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean and he's saying that where you are, sometimes like he feels like you doubt, like, am I supposed to be here right now? Like, is this the best place for me? And he's saying it is, because you wouldn't have been able to do what you're doing at this moment if you weren't in this place that you're in, where yes, you're on call almost all the time, but you have the land that is surrounding you, feeding you in a very profound way, that he can, because he's a cat and he's more connected to the earth than a human normally is. He's kind of like a conduit for you. And now that you have more awareness of that conduit, that he's helping you tap into the wisdom of the land, the nurturance of the land, the sustenance and the support and the love of the land, that that's how you can be here on doing your YouTube, your whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and your blogs, which is something that you've been wanting to do for quite some time. And
Mm-hmm.
and he's saying it's all actually perfect for you to be where you are, even though sometimes you're like, oh my God, this is a lot to do. Um, but look at what's coming out of it, and you're creating a web with other like-minded kindred spirits. And that's how nature works, right? Like, if you look at
Mm-hmm.
the mycelium of a
Yeah.
mushroom,
Yeah.
that looks exactly like the inside of the marrow bones that I give Otis once he's gotten the marrow out. It's this web of interconnectedness. And I saw
Mm,
clouds like that the other day, and I couldn't believe it. I saw that in the clouds, that pattern of connection. So the land that we're on is a key, because we can connect to the whole planet, but we can also connect to these sacred spaces that we are, as individuals, as souls, drawn to certain areas. That is a way that we can feed our soul, that we can nurture ourselves, that we can heal and clear. And
yeah.
the flower essences tie right back into that.
Mm-hmm.
And working with the plant kingdom, acknowledging the plant kingdom, like, we could not be here without the plants. So it's all connected, and the animals are connected too. So I have this woman that she's not a client. She does amazing work with helping people find lost animals, usually dogs. And so sometimes she'll call me. She'll be like, "Oh, there's this lost dog. Can you help me?" Or, "Oh, this dog's been lost for a year. Can you tune in and see if it's still in its body or whatever?" So she's just an amazing, amazing person. She does all of this for free. She's a retired school teacher, and she puts her heart and her soul in into helping people find their animals. And she's really, really, really good at it. And um, so she asked me about these three dogs recently, and one of them was an older dog, and his name was Finley, and she wanted to know if he was still in his body. And so he wasn't. He and he was already elderly. But it was interesting what he said. He's like, I'm in Guatemala now with a little boy that needs me. And I was like, oh, like they're like so giving, when they're when they can, when they can have a lifetime of, I'm just going to go help this little boy. This is my next step. Um, so what he showed me was so interesting, Julie, because he showed me how every single animal that Michelle has ever helped was creating this incredibly deep, strong pool of love. Like, I'd never seen anything like it. Okay. Like, all of the animals were like surrounding her in this ring of love and light and appreciation, and giving her all of this appreciation and gratitude. She was just like crying the whole time she was reading the email. Like, it just brings tears to my eyes. So he was showing me this because sometimes it's hard because you don't find every animal, or sometimes an animal does get killed by a coyote and it's devastating. So then she recently was diagnosed with cancer, and I was shown that thing again, like that, this huge circle of every animal that she's ever owned or helped was holding her. Like, it's just so
It's
beautiful.
so amazing. It is. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. It has been very healing to be back here. It definitely has had its challenges, and that's how we grow. But sometimes, I have to grumble because it gets really tough. But, just being like my magic tree that I told you about that I go to. And then, Che, you saw my backyard in Santa Fe, or where it's like the patio and then all the gravel. Here we go out and it's not like your standard, like, Martha Stewart lawn. There's some grass and there's some clover and there's some moss and there's some ground cover, just all mixed together. And to walk on it barefoot.
Mhm.
And I imagine how it feels on Che's little pads instead of those rocks.
Right.
And the lady who lived here before, Ken's partner who passed away, she loved flowers. So there's, flowers everywhere, and there's pine trees right in the yard. And I know Che just loves it. And then I have my magic tree, and then I'm going either to the ocean or the forest, at least once a week. And just being around all this rain after 18 years of living in a high desert that was in a drought, like it's been the mixed bag, right? It's just like life. It's been all the difficult stuff and all the blessings all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
the animals really help us when we can open our hearts and our minds to them, and to really just feel what they're showing us. They always have something to teach us that maybe we didn't know before, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a blessing to be connected to
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, he loves me unconditionally. Last night I made some strawberries and whipped cream, and I gave him um some whipped cream. He loved it. He just loved it. Well, we're right at about an hour, and we've covered all the things we wanted to talk about. And you had said that an hour felt good to you.
Yeah, I mean, unless anybody has questions, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions. If
Yeah.
anybody has a
Yeah,
question.
I'm not in a hurry to leave. I'm just checking in.
Yeah, we can
So
talk more. We can.
um I think, oh, it looks like, so Jana and David were here, but they're not here, so I guess they don't have any questions. So yeah, if there's something more you want to share, we can keep going, or if you feel like we're complete. I also, what I do with almost all of my guests, because I feel like there's always more, I invite my guests to come back with another topic and another session at a later date. I would love to do more sessions with you because I think there's plenty of things that we could share
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I think it would be fun to talk about how we can give to Mother Earth, you
Yes.
and what are some ways that we can be doing that every day to give back and to connect and to thank and to help. Like how can I be a part of the solution, right? And that's
Hmm.
different for everybody, but I think that might be something fun to talk about.
Yeah. Well, uh, oh, yeah, we're almost, this is like the last day of April or something. Is it the last day or the second to last
Last
day?
day.
I haven't been looking at
It's
my
the
phone.
last day of
Um,
April. Tomorrow's May 1st.
nice. So maybe come back in. I should have had you on Earth Day. You want to come back in April and we can talk about
In
that?
May, you mean?
I mean, sorry, in May. Yeah. April showers bring May flowers.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be fun. And,
Yeah, we'll check our schedules after I
you know,
finish my
I think
week of.
it's easy to get what people call climate anxiety or eco anxiety. I think a lot of people have that. And maybe we can talk about that, how
Yeah.
to not be in that place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is easy to get that, and it's like the more you know, the better equipped you are. Like I was listening to this video by Greg Braden the other day, and he was reminding people that, well, of course, the news always tells us one thing, and then there's always a million more pieces to the big picture than what we're being told. And part of what's going on right now is that, yeah, we need to look at the big picture, and part of the big picture, when it comes to what's going on Earth right now, especially with like people and mentally and all the chaos, is that there is a pattern, a recorded pattern throughout history, that when the sun's magnetic field is at its weakest, there's the most war.
Hmm.
And, then of course, now we always say, oh, climate change, and not we, but some people always say, oh, people are like a cancer on the earth and they just need to go. And they're the reason that earth is having so much problems. And it's not saying that humans aren't part of the equation. But again, if you study Mother Nature, Earth, planet Earth's long term history, whether we were here or not right now, she would be going through her changes that she's going through while we're on her,
Right.
right? So whether we're here or not. So it's good to open up different lenses and see the story through those different lenses, and look at the bigger picture so that you don't start believing that you are a cancer on the earth, or that, you know, all this worrying is just because of, humans alone. It's like everything's connected. We're connected to the planet. This planet is connected to other planets. It affects us. We affect the other planets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I like the idea of putting that into perspective for people, and finding out, how we can deepen our connection to Earth, and how we can be of service to her. I mean, I call this channel Creators of New Earth for a reason,
Yeah. And part of that is like, how do I be a cooperative component or cooperative co-creative component? And one of the ways to do that is like going back to what we first talked about, is to recognize if I'm in that phase, that temporary phase of feeling depressed. Like maybe it's okay. Maybe it's a recharge, right? And I'm just judging it to be a depressed phase. And maybe that's a different way to look at it. Like, oh, I'm recharging now. I can't be too external.
Mhm.
I need to be more internal. Like,
Yeah.
but the flower essences will help us to get clarity on all of those things. right? And not just get clarity, but to heal, to clear, to release, to uplift, to raise our vibration.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I'm so glad you came on here
Thanks
today,
for
Miss
inviting
Lisa.
me. Happy to be
It
here.
was fun. Yeah, I'm going to end the stream, but I don't want you to leave.
Okay.
So you and I'll still say goodbye behind the
Okay.
scenes, but the video that the audience can see is
Okay.
going to end.
Well, thank you.
All right. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you. And look for Lisa again next month because I'm going to bring her back on with another topic, which is how can we honor the earth and how can we co create with her and how can we take care of her? All right. Ciao, everybody. We love you.